Hello, welcome to the Nerdy Folks Podcast, a conversation about the nerdy things we love and the things that matter most. My name is Matthew Seipel Anderson. My wife Katie and I are the hosts of the Nerdy Folks Podcast. We love this community and we're glad you're with us today. Although, once again, I find myself all by myself, all alone. But that's okay, because I've got a great interview coming up with the guys from Denver 40K Wolfpack. I met them at Adepticon, which is a huge tabletop gaming convention, and had a great time hanging out and talking with them about Warhammer and tabletop gaming in general. But before that, does anyone out there remember Hero Quest? Hero Quest is a tabletop RPG game from the 90s, and it's a really, really fun game, and I had forgotten all about it until I started digging more into the tabletop gaming world, and I came across it, and I was like, oh yeah, I used to own this, and I had a ton of fun playing with my friends. Hero Quest has a lot of the elements of your typical RPG. It's got minis that are played on a game board, and you get character sheets with different stats, and there are some different rules, but it's very simple. It's much more simple than like D&D, and what's really cool and really fun is that Hero Quest got a recent reissue. The company that made it did a Kickstarter campaign in something like 2021, and it is back. The new version includes a bunch of newly designed miniatures with a lot more detail, and they just look a lot better. They are still color-coded, so in the original version, you didn't have to paint your minis. With a lot of these games, if you just have a whole huge swath of plain gray minis, it's kind of lame, and it's hard to tell them apart. So what they did in this game is they color-coded them. So all you had to do is open up your box, pop them out of the plastic that they came in, and you could just jump into playing. But if you love painting and you love the hobby side of tabletop gaming, you can definitely customize these and make them your own. So they're still color-coded, but they do look a lot better. Something else from the new version, it includes furniture and terrain for customizing the game board. Now, the original came with some of this, but it was cardboard. And in the new version, it is plastic or resin. So an upgrade. And a review that I was listening to said that the stuff is the correct size to be used in other tabletop games as well. So if you are into tabletop gaming, check out Hero Quest. It was a lot of fun. It's very simple, easy to play, easy for someone who doesn't do a lot of gaming and doesn't know all the rules. And you could use the stuff in your other games as well. All right, let's hop into the interview with the guys from Denver 40K Wolfpack. Okay, so I'm hanging out here at Adepticon, and I just met a crew of guys who have a different take on tabletop gaming. As anyone listening to my show knows, this is a new world for me that I'm learning about. And you guys are from Denver, and you've come all the way to Chicago, right?
Yeah, that's right. So we came all the way from Denver. Our little clique is and it's a Facebook group of like 100 members of all the locals we have in Denver. It's the Denver 40K Wolfpack. Our main game is Warhammer 40K, and we focus on the narrative side of things. We also branch out into other different games. We like BattleTech. We're getting into Age of Sigmar, all that other good stuff. But no, our take is this is not our usual milieu. We don't come to play Smash Mouth. We don't come to take the trophy per se. We're here for deals and to have a good time.
So Adepticon is known for being like the mecca of the super competitive gaming, but you guys and your group in Denver take a more narrative approach. It's more about fun and camaraderie. Is that what I'm getting?
Well, yeah, I agree that certain people, this game is, they love the competitive part. They like the number crunching and that is the intense, and that is a great thing for them. For us, we're more like storytellers. We have gone to the storyteller side of the game, where we are about writing epic stories. Where does your group come from? What planet? What's their
What's their motivation?
It's like a D&D thing. It's kind of like the coming up in the background. You got your little painted guy you worked really hard on, and you want to create a story for just him. So when he kicks butt on the table, you're excited. When he dies, you're like, oh, but obviously he doesn't die. But that's the point is it's about the camaraderie of the group. The nice thing about war gamers in general is we are open to pretty much everybody. You can come in, we are accepting, we don't care about any of that. We've met people this weekend that I've never met before. We were on an airplane and I saw a guy and I was like, hey, come on over. And we all sat down with a bunch of guys we've never met before, and we know all their names, and we're here talking to them all weekend. So this is a great culture. It's,
everyone has their bad eggs, right? Like, sore losers, there are no shortage of sore losers in wargaming, but they are few and far between, and our group especially wants to minimize that sort of thing. It's like, hey, it's a game, but we want you to have fun with the game. We want to get invested in the game, in a healthy sense, not in the sense of like, if you have personal stuff you're working through, we don't really touch on that, but just have fun.
So forgive me the ignorant question, but when you guys play, do you have someone that guides the narrative like a dungeon master, or is this more of a group thing?
So in terms of that, it's gotten a little more experimental. So in a usual war game, it's two people fighting against each other. And so what happens is they bring their army, you bring your army, and you play your tactics out and have like a good time. What we've been frustrated with currently is how much, specifically in like Warhammer 40k and certain of the major players in wargaming, have gotten an overemphasis on competitive play. So we've been experimenting with GMing players versus an environment, cooperative scenarios between players to spice up the game, because like, while it is fun to play against other players, it gets draining every once in a while. You're so focused on trying to beat the other person, you lose focus on what brought you to the game in the first place. So in players versus the environment, you can have a person who acts as a game master who can either play an army themselves or enact a scenario for players to play through and play a bit more loose with the rules, because wargaming rules tend to be more strict. But in this case, they can be, fudged a little bit for the enjoyment of the players, right?
Have you guys documented any of the things you've been doing in case someone else wanted to try out what you're doing? Or can they learn about it by connecting with you maybe on the Facebook group?
The best way to connect with us is on our Facebook group. It's the Denver 40K Wolfpack. I don't think there's any other clones like it.
No, we have two rules. And we have two rules. Don't be a douchebag, but don't tolerate douchebags. So if someone comes up to you, we're living in a society right now where people have a hard time communicating with each other. We want to say, if I have a problem with so-and-so, let's go talk it out. Let's work this stuff out and try to, like if you brought your super ultra competitive list, I do not like crushing you nor being crushed. That doesn't tell a story of, I painted all these models, I worked really hard on it, and I put my models on the table, and 20 minutes later, I'm putting them all back in my case and going home. That's no fun. I don't get any enjoyment from crushing my opponents. And what we want to do is encourage people to keep coming back, to have, like we get newbies, we get newer guys, and like we said, we help people, like learn how to play.
Not to mention help them put together armies, because like some of these games, you have to put together models, help them with paint schemes, get a general idea of what they want to play with, and help it get on the table.
Yeah. Do you guys have any shout outs for like local game shops in your area?
Our biggest, place that we go to play is there's a Hobby Town in our local neighborhood. So, shout out to those guys,
Hobby Town, Westminster, Colorado, really good guys. They set up they save space for us on Friday nights. They have a pretty good selection of general war games. They take care of us really well. They stay late, open on Friday nights for us.
Yeah.
So we can continue, because after a long week, sometimes Denver's pretty large as a metropolis now, and it's hard to get across town.
Right.
So it's really, that's our shout out. But there's a big community in Denver. And we have types for everybody. There's a Denver 40K Fight Club. They're more of a competitive. They're here this weekend. They're
playing probably in this
they're
tournament.
Playing in the tournaments. They're good guys. We send players who are like, that's the environment I want to go to. We push them that way and go, this is what it is.
Right on.
We're for the kind of the more storytellers, the guys that like to read epic novels and have these great stories about my character and blah. And then there's guys in the middle all over the city of Denver and up and down the Front Range. But everybody's, I really am proud of the Denver community because we all have, and this is all over the country. There are groups like this all over the country that have the same mentality. And I'm not saying that we're different than anyone else. We're just a little more...
It's our emphasis.
It's our emphasis where we want a game where we write cool stories with our battles.
That's awesome. Yeah. You guys have any favorite character stories you want to share or favorite scenarios that you've played out a few times?
So, I will share a story about Players versus the Environment scenario that I ran with my two buddies here. And I played as the GM. And so the setting is Warhammer 40K. And so our story takes place kind of on the planet of Arcadia, and the Rin's Dark Wolves, which is Marcus, one of our players, he brought his chaos-themed World Eater's army to the table. We made a narrative of him wanting to besiege this hive city, Arcadia Primus, and it was taking him years. A Dark Angel successor chapter showed up, stopped him in his tracks. It was taking forever. Then we have Wolf, one of our other players in the scenario. He said he comes to the table with his Alpha Legion army, which are very deceptive guys.
Deceptive, sneaky, saboteurs, all that.
Right. And so they come to his warlord character and say, listen, we will help you get into the city, but in exchange, we want a special starship from your fleet. And so, of course, him being in trouble with Khorne is like, hey, I got to take the city. I got to kill all these people. Accepts the deal. So our scenario is that they go into the Underhive to search for the shield generator. And of course, who's waiting for them? The defending Space Marines who have to kill them. But of course, Marcus takes his Rin's Dark Wolves and just tears through tons of them. He's murdering Space Marines left and right. It's carnage. And of course, Wolf is just sitting, sneaking through the back hallways, getting to the shield generator. Lo and behold, an epic duel ensues between his warlord and the warlord of the commanding troops. Both of them die. Both of them die in an epic duel.
And what we do with this is, once we're done with this 3-time player campaign thing, we shelve it, or we go on to the next step, and we do something else, or we do.
And this could also be done for one-shots. If you want to have a one-off scenario where your guy meets up with my guy and they have a nice story fighting out of it, that's great. That's exactly what we want to have happen.
I'm a big lore hound. I love the lore. Warhammer 40K has got over 300 novels of history. Yeah. This is a very immersive world. There's more books of this than Doom.
Yeah.
Right? And they're just as immersive for evolution of humanity. There's tragic tales. There's moral high ground. All this. That's what's immersive for it for me, is just that.
And so if you're a person coming into overall tabletop wargaming, the first goal is to find a game you like. Find something that looks cool or that speaks to you. It could be the models, it could be the rules. Find something that's fun to play. Next, find the group you want to play with. If you want to be competitive, you want to see how good you can be, how awesome something could be, do that. Or if you want to do stories, go find those people. The wargaming community is one of the most accommodating I have ever seen. And if not anything, they're just as more enthusiastic than D&D players. They are insanely dedicated to their craft.
And we build all this. This stuff starts off in most of the games we play. It's not like pull out of a package and just put it on the table and play with it. We build it, we customize it, we paint them by hand.
You make lore beforehand. Sometimes the model can change between games. If something that, if you play Kill Team, sometimes a guy gets his eyes shot out in the game, and people like to scratch out the eyes of their models.
And and like I said, this is one of the largest things like this in the United States. And we all come at for different reasons. I come for it for mental health, you know, but it stops the whirlwind, so to speak. But yeah, we have everyone here we all got that common goal, and it doesn't matter whether you play with Napoleonics, barbarians, spaceship games,
giant robots.
It doesn't matter. We're all enthused about this, and we all paint and build, or maybe it's the competitive side. That's why we like it. It's so adapting. We can find you a group for that person in your local area or in the country. The nice thing about these games is I pick up my army and go to England. I'm playing in London. There's guys in here from Quebec. I know there were some guys from Germany here.
There are several people from like Poland, Russia, not as much as the Far East, but there are people from there too. Like they're from all over the world.
That's amazing.
Yeah, and I mean that's the camaraderie. And basically what you do is you start off at your local game store. You go in, you look up local game stores online, and you might have to go through 2 game stores to fit your feel. Everybody, you can walk up and go. I've never met a tabletop gamer who has ever said, unless they're competitive, if they're playing like right now, they're very concentrated on what they're doing. But if it's a local guy, you walk in your local game store, people will come up and go, hey, what is this? And then you unfortunately have released the flood.
Yeah.
Where people will just give you so much information, you're like, whoa. And like I said, the group is accepting. I mean, we've got every gender, we have every sexual orientation, we have every creed, identity, race, no matter. And we all love this stuff for various reasons.
Yeah. That's awesome.
Yeah.
Well, thanks so much, guys, for hanging out and talking with me.
Yeah.
All right. Thanks, guys, so much for being willing to chat about Warhammer 40K and about tabletop gaming. If you want to connect with the Denver 40K Wolfpack, just go to Facebook and look them up, especially if you're in the Denver area. I know they also do more games than just Warhammer. If there are other games you play and you're looking for people to play with, just hop on there. I went on their Facebook and there are lots of people that will just put on, hey, does anyone want to play this game at this time at the game shop? And people are setting up games that way. So it's a great way to connect with people and just a lot of fun. And these guys were just a blast to talk to. Something that was mentioned in the interview was lore. Warhammer has this super long-running history of different storylines, different books that have been written, and so the lore is really fun and really immersive. And I was thinking about how Christians are really into lore as well. In fact, the Christian church, they were early adopters of codex. In other words, they ditched scrolls in favor of pages, like books, the way we think of them today. And the reason they did that, or one of the reasons, is because Christians wanted to understand how the Jewish scriptures pointed to Jesus and how the Jewish prophets had predicted that a Messiah would come and suffer and die for our sins. And so they were always looking back at Old Testament scripture. And some common ones that are used a lot are Genesis 3, where it talks about the descendant of Adam and Eve would bruise the head of the serpent. That's been seen as one of the very first messianic prophecies. Isaiah 53, written hundreds of years before Jesus, talked about the Messiah being wounded for our transgressions. And Psalm 22 gives so many images, or a lot of imagery about the crucifixion. And it says they will look on him whom they pierced. And of course we know that in the story of Jesus' crucifixion, when the soldiers came, they stabbed him in the side with a spear. So it's really interesting that Christians love lore, and that's a huge part of this science fiction fantasy world is we love the lore, we love the stories, we love the immersion. It's great. All right, thanks so much for listening. Love you. Until next time, take care. God bless. Bye-bye.